Hello there. Welcome to our explanation for a product that is very amazing and very healthy. And to be able to explain this product called Skyline, there's no other person in the world that can better explain the reasons behind why it's healthy for you and all the benefits of using it. But we also have another amazing individual who's Michelle, who is online. And by the way, Ethan is a holistic doctor for many, many years, helping patients all over the world. So he knows his content about what we're talking about here today. We also have Michelle, another amazing friend of mine, who has actually ordered that product for her daughter, if I'm right, if I'm correct, exactly. She's showing you, and she'll be able to interact with Ethan about what she got, how long does it, how long can it last, and how the package looks like. So, Ethan, it's all yours, my dear friends.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a topic that you have probably never heard talked about before because it's something that has never existed until now. And I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. But before I do, I want to talk about a more familiar topic, which is linked. So, in the natural health world, we talk a lot about detoxing heavy metals, plastics, chemicals, pesticides, and so on. And detox is super important, but there's something else that's also really important, maybe arguably more important, and that is, if possible, not to let the toxins in the first place. It's much better to never have the toxins in you than to detox them after you've got them in you. Now, of course, there are some toxins we can't avoid, such as air pollution, Wi-Fi, all sorts of stuff that we can't get away from. But many of the worst toxins are actually built into products that we use every single day that we've quietly accepted them as normal. And it's not normal. And one of the most shocking examples of that is a female specific toxin source. And it's something that is in contact with the most absorbent areas of our bodies. And it's worn for hours at a time, year after year. And most women are unaware of exactly how toxic this really is. So, of course, I'm talking about feminine hygiene products, which are full of bleach fibers, industrial glues, plastics, fragrances, fluorescent agents, and really importantly, lots of known carcinogens, and all sitting directly over a highly permeable area month after month, year after year. So, before we talk about detoxing, we need to talk about avoidance, avoiding the toxins that we can avoid. Now, I'm going to be talking, as I mentioned, about a breakthrough technology that's now available in this feminine hygiene space that goes beyond just the toxins. And as I say, it's something that's never been created until now. And I'm going to be talking then about a sanitary pad product using the latest technology from a world market leading company in this area that I've been partnered with for years called OliLife. Now, some women already in their heads are going to be asking why I'm talking about pads and not tampons. So I want to just touch on that before I really get going. This is about health, and pads are far more natural and work much more in a way that doesn't interfere with the natural bodily processes. So first of all, the most obvious one is that there's no internal disruption. Okay, so there's nothing to disrupt the natural microbiome inside and the pH balance, protective mucus, all factors that are important for immune defense and tissue health. So pads don't do that, tampons do. Secondly, there's a reduced infection risk because pads don't stay inside the body. One of the things that you don't risk with pads, which you do with tampons, is something called TSS, or toxic shock syndrome. Okay, this is something that can happen even with non-toxic tampons because of the way that they work. They actually reduce and create a low oxygen environment that can encourage harmful bacterial growth. And it's the bacteria that are created that cause the toxic problem. So even the non-toxic ones cause toxicity. Sometimes, rarely, but sometimes it can be so bad, it can be so toxic that women die from TSS. Now, that's unusual to be that bad, but it just shows you that the environment it creates is certainly not a healthy one. Now, the next thing that pads don't do, or rather that tampons do, let's look at it that way, they can create dryness and micro traumas, little bits of damage inside, which increases irritation and therefore increases, again, infection. Also, outside creates less possibility for any kind of chemical exposure. So that is, of course, going to be better automatically just by being outside. And then finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, that pads are in better alignment with the body's natural flow. Okay, so pads allow the blood to exit the body naturally as designed without any obstruction, whereas tampons partially block flow and they hold blood internally for hours that should be external. Okay, so pads are more natural, better options straight off. So if you're going to try and do something that is for health purposes, then pads are the better option. Okay, so now let's get started, and I'm just going to switch to a slide now. So hopefully you can all see that. So we're going to be talking about an absolute, not even, I wouldn't even call this an upgrade. This is an entirely new category of feminine hygiene. A pad that doesn't just absorb, but it actually responds and reacts to the woman. Okay, and you'll learn more about this as I go here. So let's first of all consider a regular pad. Okay, so what is a regular pad supposed to do? Basically, it's a passive thing that just sits there and passively absorbs liquid. That's what it does. But women are not passive, their bodies are dynamic. The cycle changes daily and the needs change just daily and monthly. And so what we want is something a bit more than that, and that's what we have got here. And I'm going to talk, before we get to the toxicity bit, I'm going to talk a bit about some of the technology, starting with the magnetic induction chip. And this is where Skyline, that's the product name, Skyline breaks all the limitations. Inside every Skyline pad is an innovative magnetic induction chip made from sub-micron rare earth magnetic units processed through nano dispersion. That's a bit of a mouthful, but what does it actually mean? It basically means that the pad can stimulate localized circulation. It can support oxygen delivery, which is super important, and it helps reduce the sense of stagnation that many women feel during their period. And it actually is happening, and that's not a good thing. Okay, so there are multiple effects that this has, and I'm just going to talk about 3 of them here. Hemodynamics is where it's reducing the blood viscosity. Many of you have heard me talk about that when we're using frequency in other areas like the P90 with PEMF and so on. Reducing blood viscosity helps to clear the prostaglandins, which is a hormone-like compound responsible for cramps. So that's good news. If you can help clear one of the key things that's responsible for cramps, how cool is that? So also it affects the cellular energy by enhancing mitochondrial activity, which supports ATP production. That's the energy, helping to repair tissue and energy flow. So really, really super cool there. Finally, on this point, it helps with neural regulation by calming pain signals, and it reduces nerve sensitivity. This is not a pad that just sits there. This actively supports the body through discomfort. So let's look at the physical magnetic field benefits. So with improved flow comes better conductivity, which increases the Lorentz force that acts on the red blood cells, helping them to rotate and move freely. That is, again, super important, the movement of the blood. In simple terms, what it's really doing is helping prevent clotting externally and promoting a smoother circulation internally. And that's why you'll find many women report lighter, cleaner, and smoother periods. So, crystalline thermal energy. There's a lot of technological words because there's a lot of technology behind this. So Skyline includes ceramic far infrared crystal powder, which is activated by the body's heat, and it emits natural 4 to 14 micrometer far infrared rays. So it's using far infrared, which is the same frequency range that the body already naturally resonates with. And this is able to deeply penetrate the pelvic tissues, encouraging warmth, better microcirculation, and soothes and comforts. So this far infrared is a pretty big deal. So what are some of the things that it does? Well, it relaxes uterine contractions. What slide are we on? We're on 10, right? I'm getting confused on my slides here, making sure I'm on the right one. So it relaxes uterine contractions, another massive, massive benefit. It also increases vasodilation by literally as much as 40%, a huge increase there. It speeds the clearance of metabolic waste, another big deal, and it restores connective tissue flexibility. So a lot of very important things done by this technology. Let's look at temperature. So as the temperature and humidity rise, okay, the ceramic lattice of it becomes more active and it increases infrared power, which means that there's more relaxation, more warmth, more comfort exactly when you need it. So there's actually two sources of this infrared. So the first one is the ceramic powder that I've already mentioned, which helps to cool. The second one is a graphene plate. Graphene, by the way, is carbon. So we're not talking about graphene oxide, we're talking about graphene, so which is a sheet of carbon, and it activates when temperature rises. And together, the ceramic powder with the graphene adapt in real time to changing conditions. So whether you're warm or cold, active, sitting or sleeping, it's going to adapt to you. So while conventional traditional pads, which are also usually toxic, just sit and absorb, Skyline literally listens and responds to your body with more ions, stronger magnetic benefits, temperature shifts, infrared penetration, increased antibacterial activity. I mean, it really is amazing, as I say, a completely new paradigm of feminine hygiene. So what should a pad offer? Well, it should be safe, right? It should be breathable. It should be comfortable, absorbent, protective. Obviously, it should be non-toxic, something which many people seem to have just let go. Well, Skyline achieves all of these things, but then goes far beyond that with some of the technologies that I'm talking about. Now, aside from that, it is incredibly thin, right? Only 0.8 millimeters thick. And we'll be looking at them with Michelle briefly in a few minutes. But the Skyline pad absorbs instantly within seconds, and it locks moisture downwards to keep the surface area dry, while containing none of the usual things like recycled cotton. And by the way, cotton is one of the most heavily sprayed crops that exists. There's no wood pulp. It's fully non-toxic, fully eco-friendly, light, soft, dry, and unbelievably comfortable. So what are the fibers then that are used? Well, what's used is bamboo. So the surface layer is made from a natural bamboo fiber, which is antibacterial, breathable, incredibly soft. Now, as a man, I can't speak to them directly, but I do have socks made out of bamboo. I don't know whether that comes into play, but they are great socks. I've loved them for a long time. We'll get Michelle to talk a little bit more on the actual product in a few minutes. But anyway, so it uses a dual mesh structure that allows fast flow through, but without stickiness. And it's vastly superior to cotton and non-woven fabrics, or certainly the plastic mesh commonly used in regular pads. And plastic, of course, is a petrochemical product that we really don't want in or against our body. So it uses antibacterial and odor neutralization through things like T polyphenols to break down microbial membranes. Also silver ions. Many of you will be familiar with colloidal silver. So it uses silver ions to block bacterial replication. And it also uses negative ions in order to reduce odors naturally. No harsh chemicals, just plant and mineral based intelligent protection. So I'm just super excited about this. I really am, and I'm not even a woman. So hopefully the women are even more excited than me. So now one of the things that is often problematic is the adhesive used. I've spoken about this with frequency pads, patches rather than pads that have nasty adhesives. So most pads and patches and things that we're sticking on our skin use industrial adhesives containing all sorts of harmful chemicals, including fluorescent agents and benzene derivatives, all sorts of toxic chemicals. But this is using food grade adhesive, completely free of toxins, and it sticks firmly, removes cleanly, and leaves zero residue. So that again is a really big deal. Okay, so finally, as just before I bring Michelle on, I just want to highlight then that Skyline has really got a philosophy that says women are not standardized, cycles are not identical, and pads should not be one size fits all, but instead adapt dynamically to all the different variables: temperature, flow, humidity, movement, and it provides a personalized comfort and protection for every woman, for every type of cycle. Now, just before I bring Michelle on, I'm going to answer a question that inevitably comes up whenever I share information like this, when women will say, okay, that's all great, all this technology sounds very expensive. Like, what is this actually going to cost? And that is a very reasonable question. And I'm not going to lean in on the fear of the toxicity and all of that, or compare it to the cost of the discomfort or toxic exposure. None of that. Everyone has their own sense of what those things mean for them personally. What I will say is simply this: that Olylife has made a deliberate effort to keep this technology completely accessible. And rather than positioning it as a premium product with a premium price tag, which they could have done, they've structured it so that overall the cost aligns pretty much with what many women are already spending on the higher quality conventional products. And they do that by providing it in bulk with, depending on the woman, whether they're a light user or a heavy user, it's between 1 and 2 years supply that they're giving you. And it works out cost wise, when you work it all out, that it will cost roughly between $20 to $40 a month, depending on the woman's cycle. And obviously that's $20 to $40 a month, and that's without the chemicals, without the outdated materials, without the issues that so many of it have accepted as normal, and of course, importantly, with all this breakthrough technology. So my intention isn't to convince anyone, of course. My intention is simply to share a new option that supports the body instead of stressing it, and is going to be more accessible. And then it's up to every woman to choose what they want to do with that. So what I'd like to do at this point is bring on Michelle to share a little bit. I'm just trying to get rid of this slide. There we go. Got rid of it. It took me a minute to figure that out. So I want to bring Michelle on, and she can share a little bit. That's the product sat right with her. So Michelle, do you want to share a little bit? I know your daughter's been using them for the last couple of months. So do you want to share a little bit about your daughter's experience, maybe to start?
Hi, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, we have gone through 2 periods, and After listening to you, now it makes sense because I've noticed that Griffin hasn't been using as many pads as she normally would. And the smell is not as bad. Like actually there is no smell. Normally, she'll wrap it up in a toilet paper and then stick it in the trash can, and it kind of gets a little overwhelming after a while, but like no smell. And also I have noticed that there is very little cramping. So the cramping is at the very beginning before the period even starts. And we usually go through quite a bit of ibuprofen. Sometimes we'll miss school because it's really serious cramping. But again, and it's funny because I'm noticing these things. This last period, we did not have to use any ibuprofen, and I didn't hear, Mom, my tummy hurts. Mom, I've got really bad cramps, and also headaches. The headaches have gotten better. So I don't know how that correlates with it, but I'm sure it does. So yeah, I was really excited because I was willing, after doing research myself, and I did a post on Facebook right before these came out and I learned about them, that so much feminine products have toxins in there. And I knew my Facebook community knew a lot. So I asked, and people are using like the cups and different things like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, another research endeavor. I've got to go and do all this work. And I said, you know what? I don't care how much these pads are. I believe in this company. I know they put out like phenomenal products. I'm just going to order them. So when the shipment came, I was so surprised. This box was huge. It was 5 of these boxes in a big box. And I didn't even know they were in there yet. And I lifted the box. I could barely get it inside the door, and I was like, oh my gosh, are these pads like super heavy? Like, how's Griffin gonna wear them, right? So when I opened the box, though, I saw 5 of these boxes, and then I opened this box, and there's 6 boxes in each. So
wow.
literally, yeah, it's a ton of product. So I gave a box to Griffin. And I remember what I was doing. I was going underneath the sink, and I noticed that like the boxes weren't open. She had just opened these 2, and I was like, what the heck? I said, Griffin, are you using those pads? And she was like, yeah. And I said, did you use anything else? Are you using any other stuff? And she was like, no. And I was like, oh my gosh, you went through 3 pads for 1 period. And normally it's a regular cycle. So it would be like, probably like probably, I don't know, 12 to 14 pads. And I thought, are these like super heavy? But no, they're thin. Can you see how thin they are? They're normally like a panty liner thickness, ladies. Yeah, it's amazing. So this one,
0.8 millimeters is the precise thickness.
245 milliliters, MMs.
Yeah, I was talking about the thinness of them.
Oh, I don't know. Do you have that information anywhere? Does it say it?
I've just given it, Michelle. It's 0.8 millimeters.
Okay. And then here is the overnight. And I'm not sure why it's an overnight, what the difference is the overnight and the regular. But then look at this. This is an extra long pad, which is really good because a lot of times at night we don't sleep just in one position. We're tossing and turning. And so this catches everything. I haven't noticed any blood on underwear or anything. I mean, these, and the price, it's cheaper. It's cheaper than what I was spending. And I don't have to spend all day in CVS trying to figure out what the heck I'm going to buy. So I love them.
Awesome. So there's actually a total of 540 items in that set, I understand. Is that right?
Yes. For each box like this, you get 108 pads. So times 5 is 540 pads. Yep.
Right. Awesome. That's fantastic. So anything else you'd like to say before we close, Michelle?
I have one question for you, Ethan.
Yeah, sure. For me?
Yeah, for you and Michelle. Well, the first thing is, like you already mentioned to me once, when we're looking at the price, and like Michelle said, they're actually really not expensive. because they're able, like Ethan said, to sell in a bulk. So you're buying one-time purchase at the beginning, but when you separate it and you know that it can last between 1.5 years and 2 years, that price that you're paying for the bulk at the beginning, which is not like sometimes when you think of something purchased one time, okay, it looks like a lot at one time, but when you separate it for 1.5 years, 2 years, it's really not expensive, especially with all the benefits that we're getting. And the other little thing I got yesterday, I don't know if you touched on it, Ethan, is one lady said, yeah, but ladies are used to using the tampons, the ones that we stick inside ourselves, right, Michelle? No, they don't use those pads too much anymore. They pretty much, a lot of people are using the ones that they insert. Well, I'd like you to explain a little bit that, Ethan, on like if there's any explanation on that, please.
Yeah, I've already done that. I went through
Okay,
that.
all right, perfect. All right.
And I would also like to say for the younger kids, like Griffin just turned 16, they're not comfortable putting something up inside them. You know, they very rarely have had sex yet. And they just, that's kind of a very special, like sanctioned area. And it's scary for them. So they're still using pads. I think a lot of females are still using pads. And again, Ethan explained how toxic those tampons are. And I am super glad I found these. And I'm going to keep Griffin from not using tampons unless Oli Life comes out with tampons.
Well, even if they do, even a non-toxic tampon is toxic because it changes the environment. It reduces the oxygen. It creates bad bacteria. So you don't want anything inside. You want it on the
Okay. Yes. And had I had something like this when I was using tampons, I would have used these because again, it was the smell and the mess. And this takes care of it. It lightens the flow. It helps the cramping and it just regulates the system and it catches it all in like a really thin. I'm just so shocked how thin these are. They're literally like a little panty liner, you guys.
Absolutely. I'm super excited about this because I have so many women over the years. I've recommended different things because women come to me obviously with what I do. I've never had anything like this. This really is a breakthrough, a massive breakthrough. And I really thought the price was going to be a lot more. I'm super impressed that they've been able to do it. Sure, it means an outlay, yeah, up front, but the price is fantastic. $20, $40 tops.
Yeah, I think we've spent, I would average it because just a quarter of a box for 2 periods. So that's like $25 each month. And I'll take it. Just the peace of mind and sanity, you know?
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Luigi and Michelle, for coming on with me and helping to share this information. Let's see if we can get some women to move over and reduce their toxicity and have a better time every month than they've been having up till now. And that would be great if we can do that. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.